Season 3, Episode 4, Solo Edition, coming at you in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, America. It's time to check the nonsense at the door, clear the cobwebs between your ears, and have a rational-ish conversation. This is the lost art of common sense.
That's right, America. I'm Josh, and this is the lost art of common sense. And this week, I'm having to go solo because, well, Kevin's not doing his normal fishing for clown colleges. I actually have to go out of town, and I don't have enough time tomorrow to edit a two-person podcast. And since it was my turn this week to run the episode, Kevin's making me do the solo one. So you're stuck with me. I hope you enjoy it. In today's show, well, actually, let me get to the business part of it. This show is sponsored to you by our merch shop. Link below. Cool designs. Be free to click the link and or feel free to click the link and peruse our selection. They're pretty cool. I think you'll enjoy the shirts. I think you should buy them, try them, and help support the show. As well as like, subscribe, comment, and share so more people can be annoyed by us. This week, I wanted to do the show, and then Kevin will be giving his input on it next week. Kind of like Gen Y and Gen Z and the American Dream. Just because I've noticed that a lot of people want the American Dream, but it's kind of how they go about getting it. So, first off, talking about the American Dream, it's hard to tell. Like, American Dream is different to whoever. I mean, the American Dream might be someone just to have family and kids and live in a single wide on top of a hill in the middle of the woods somewhere. I mean, it literally can be anything from anybody. Most of the big popular one is to grow up, have a family, buy a home, own your little piece of America. And that was kind of it. And then as technology came along and things changed, our dream got a little shinier, a little fancier for some. I'm not sure if, I guess the one question is to ask, is Gen Z really wanting to achieve the American dream? I mean, just because of what we hear in younger people, like they're really into video games and, is their American dream being top score in some online gaming thing like Fortnite or World of Warcraft or other online gaming stuff that I don't play, because last time I tried to play an online game, I got destroyed. So pretty quick, that's not my place to hang out because I'm not good. But it's interesting to think about it because I think a lot of people do actually. I think they want the American dream, but they want to put in the time and effort to achieve that. So, like, if your American dream is to go out, meet someone, get married, have kids, or even just if the American dream is to just own a house or have a nice, own a house, have a nice car, have some money in the bank, whatever. It seems like that want is there. The problem is the drive to do what needs to be done to get it doesn't seem as much. It seems like a lot of them are trying to put the cart before the horse. They don't realize in order to get that, because we've progressively through the generations, things have gotten better until this recent one. Like, I actually feel bad for Gen Z because I actually think that this is probably the first generation, maybe millennial, but I doubt it. I think it's Gen Z is the first generation where things are actually worse off than what they were for their parents. So a lot of that you can thank to the culture being poisoned by the left in schools and stuff like that. And people voting for Democrats, which, in the 21st century, pretty much took us way back as far as race relations go and running the country into the ground. But it's like, so things are harder, things are more expensive, yet everybody wants everything now. I mean, the credit card debt is up to, I think, $1.4 trillion. And there's two things really fueling inflation right now. One, the federal government spending money like drunken sailors. I mean, the Biden administration, all that, just spending tons of money. And then in the same time, the reason why they raise interest rate is to slow the money in the economy. Well, people aren't curbing their buying habits. They're just putting more stuff on credit cards. and I've had to accumulate more credit card debt myself in Biden's America and Bidenomics. But so that's all gaining together. I mean, the interest, the inflation rates go back up to 3, which it's an accumulative number, so it doesn't matter if inflation was up at 9%, but now it's down to 3%, which means it's up to 12% above what it was the year before. It was 9%. So the prices aren't going to go down unless we get. The only thing I can think of getting prices down is getting the fuel costs down. Tapping our oil and gas reserves and lowering that because that'll lower transportation, manufacturing costs, all that stuff. So that stuff's going to go down. But once wages come up to match this bullshit inflation, labor is a base cost, kind of like fuel. So once that goes up, then prices are up. So it's like we never really get ahead. It's like, oh, I got a raise. And nowadays, some people might get a raise, and they're not making any more money, or they're not living any better. They're just like, oh, I got more money to pay more bills. And that seems to be what we're doing. But it seems like a lot of younger folk want everything right now, today, and don't want to put the time and effort to do it. And I'm not sure how you go about fixing that other than reality checks, I guess. To like, no, this isn't going to happen. You can't go out and buy for your first house like a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house on an acreage. It's just not going to happen. I mean, you start out small and then you grow from there. I mean, that's what I had to do. My first house was pretty tiny. It was basically a living room with 3 doors and went straight into bedrooms, and then a bathroom right next to the living room. So if you had a little rumbling in your tummy, people in the living room were going to know because that door was pretty thin and awkward. But it's one of the reasons I moved, so I could be awkward farther away in the house when you had too much of the mushroom drop soup or whatever that stuff's called. But I don't know how we really fix it, because I mean, we need to fix some schooling and give these kids more realistic expectations for life. And it might go into the whole participation award, as far as like everyone's a winner and this and that, so you get what you want, and then parents always giving their kids everything they want. And it kind of creates that mindset to where, it's just not, people don't learn to work for stuff. It's like I used to have to do chores to get an allowance, and that was my source of income when I was younger. How many people do that? How many people have their kids do that nowadays? Chores as a kid is kind of like your first taste of doing work. So I'm not sure if there's any signs of change. I mean, I think things are slightly getting better, but as far as the digital age and all the problems caused by that, I don't know if that's getting any better. I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to that kind of stuff because I don't know. It's hard to follow. I just know like gaming's been catching on like crazy lately because Hollywood's putting out nothing but shit and DEI filled crap. So, gaming has actually gone up quite a bit. So, let's see. I mean, that's kind of all I got to say about that topic, especially not being able to bounce ideas off of Kevin. But I mean, I think that nowadays younger people don't want to put in the work, or don't even know that they're supposed to put in the time and the work and kind of pay your dues and work toward the American dream. Everybody just wants it now, and that's not how it works. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that because we're Americans, we're entitled to something, and we are, but we're entitled to the freedom and ability to achieve the American dream, to have the opportunity to achieve the American dream. You're not guaranteed shit. If you're not willing to work for it, you don't deserve it. Sorry. Some people are born with silver spoons in their mouth. Some people are born with lead spoons in their mouth, and we know who all those people are. You've met one. You know. But something like that's got to change to where it's not like you're not sacrificing the person's integrity, work ethic, or anything like that, in order to save their feelings in the short term. That's why we have participation awards, because we don't want kids to feel bad because they didn't win. Well, that's if it's in sports and you get your ass kicked at something, you're either gonna be a loser, go home and quit, or you're gonna be like, hey, I don't want to get my ass kicked anymore, so I'm gonna train harder, practice harder, and get better at it. And people that do that at a younger age generally have a good, strong work ethic when they get older, and they generally become something when they get older. So I think we need more of that and less of the coddling. You don't have to be dicks, but the whole, I don't know, the whole everyone's a winner thing is stupid, because there's winners and losers in life, period. The whole uh, equitable outcome is bullshit. If you're on the low end of equitable, if they're talking about equity and that's because they're treating you like you're not good enough to achieve it yourself. Now, there are some people in communities in this country that are a little underprivileged, because the public school systems really all over America, there are some public schools that are great. I think my school system I grew up in was good, but there's a lot of public school systems that are crap. And if you got grown up and were taught in some of these public school systems that thinks it's perfectly fine to let someone graduate who's basically illiterate, yeah, those people are starting off with a handicap, and we need to stop that. In this country, where we have public education, everybody, at least K through 12, should be on an even playing field from that point on. By the way, a shit ton of successful entrepreneurs are not college grads, because a lot of what you learn when you go to college is what you can't do. And people who don't go to college just figure out how to do the can't do stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. I think that's a big problem, is we need to change our schooling, the way we perceive things, and stop coddling people so much, because at some point they're going to run into real life, and it's not going to be as coddled and warm and fuzzy as they thought. So that kind of ends my thoughts on that. Kevin's going to offer up his thoughts on it next week when he's back and we roll into his. So I'm going to go ahead and roll into my loser of the week, which is NPR. NPR is a taxpayer-funded, I guess, media group, kind of like BBC. But apparently they don't have... Apparently everyone who works for NPR is a Democrat, at least where their editors go. So it's a completely one-sided view coming from a publicly funded entertainment/media source, which, I mean, if anybody has ever listened to or watched anything from NPR, if you're not left-leaning, you can't listen to a whole lot of it, because the amount of ignorance on that outlet is amazing. But you can tell it's one-sided. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having multiple viewpoints, and that's why some people say the Five on Fox News is so popular, is because they always have at least one left-leaning person on there. I mean, I think that's how Hannity got his start, when he had Hannity and Combs, and it was the back and forth, the banter, the multiple opinions coming in, because once he went to his own show, it just, I don't know. I don't watch or listen to a whole lot of Sean Hannity, so. But yeah, I mean, how can you? It's like when they fired. We talked about in a couple episodes ago with Romney firing the old RNC chair. Oh, they don't. As a news group, we need to meld together, so that way there's no checks and balances, and we can just run like crazy on any story. Like recently, you would have heard of this when I'm filming it, but there was a police shooting in Chicago, and the left-wing media comes out and basically says, oh, this poor person was in a vehicle and they were shot to death by 4 cops or something like that. And what they left out, the fact is, once again, like in most police shootings, the person wasn't obeying the police's commands, and then he shot at one of them. And once you pull the trigger on a gun toward a police officer, you have forfeited your life, and more than likely, unless you're very lucky, you're going to die. Now, there were a shit ton of bullets, I think 96 fired back at them. So there might have been a little, They would definitely wanted to make sure they stopped the threat, but it's just a joke how they immediately came out and started putting the narrative that, oh, this guy was executed by the cops. No, this guy, worst case scenario for, I don't know why they would do it, is suicide by cop. Because if you shoot at a cop, you're committing suicide. That's what you're doing. Just how that works. If you want to survive a traffic stop, you do whatever the police officer says, and if you don't agree with what they're saying, then you take it to court. Because there's not a judge or a jury or anybody but you and the cop in the street, and you're never going to win that argument. Ever. So, yeah, safest way to survive a traffic stop, which I can't believe that's an actual thing, is just comply. And then if you feel like you've been wrong, deal with it in court. If you need to put your phone on record so you can record the conversation, do that. But if people are so damn scared of the cops for self-preservation, just do whatever the officer says, obey their commands. And I'm not sure if this person had a warrant or, whatever. That seems to be a lot of times when things go awry with police officers, they get pulled over for some random traffic stop, and then like, oh shit, I got a warrant or some shit like that. And there's a lot of times there's a catalyst on why those things escalate, but even then, you know what? It's still easier to argue from within a courtroom than argue with a cop in the street when you're not complying. Because the more you don't comply, the more the tension, the more the stress goes up, and the higher probability for something bad happens. So that's a good rule of thumb. Just comply, bitch to the judge. So that's my losers for the week. NPR. They are losers and their programming is shit. My winner of the week is the Nickelodeon child actors, because although a lot of them dealt with some really messed up shit, because of that documentary that came out, there's been a lot of talking about it and there's been shining a light on it. So I was, I think in the long run, all these creep, D-bag pedophiles and just executives, they push a lot of weird shit on these kids shows. If you actually watch them and stuff, it's like they just put stuff in these shows that don't need to be in there. Like they inject sexuality into kid shows. Doesn't need to be in there. I don't care what excuse they come up with. When kids are young, they eat dirt and do stupid stuff. It's not like, I don't know. I just think it's stupid. So I'm glad that the light was shined on this, that the documentary came out and it got people talking about all the messed up shit that goes on in Hollywood. It's just another symptom of the disease that is Hollywood. And I don't know, if they don't get their shit together, they're I don't think they're going to be around all that much either. So I mean, I don't know. You can only keep making flops all you want, even though Mel Gibson and Mark Wahlberg are making like a non-woke movie production company, which, I mean, really, if you look at the box office numbers, if other than Barbie, because it was kind of like, that was some trickery as far as advertising goes, because nobody knew it was an let's see, misogynistic and what do they call that, hierarchy or whatever. Basically, it was a male bashing feminist party. Like they did a pretty good job at hiding that. That, and a lot of kids want to see Barbie, so they're like, "Oh no, Barbie made a shit ton of money." It's like, yeah, because nobody knew what shit they were going to see. Hell, I even thought it looked half-ass funny because of the preview that had Ken saying, "I'm a man. I need a stethoscope and a pen, and I could be a doctor." I thought that was hilarious and true. So, but I don't know. That's part of the. They're gonna have a hard time crawling their way back, even with well, I don't know. There's a bunch of stories going around about Deadpool 3. About that will definitely be a moneymaker for Disney because it's Deadpool 3 and Ryan Reynolds. But they're trying to go out of their way to wreck the third act of that movie. So there's been a lot of rumblings about that, and hopefully Ryan Reynolds wins out, because I think this wants to be his third and final actual full-length movie for Deadpool. Might be wrong. Might not have any idea what the hell I'm talking about. But if it is, he definitely doesn't want to go out as a flop, a DEI bullshit flop. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it's good. I'll see it anyway, regardless. But I just don't want to be disappointed. That wraps up my winners, losers of the week. So the happenings of the week, as I said, we just had that shooting. You probably would have already heard or already heard of this. What was it 3 days ago, 4 days ago? But O.J. Simpson tragically succumbed to his colon cancer and is now dead. There are some people that are sad, and a lot of people who are not over that, since technically he was acquitted of murder. I'm not 100% sure that was a good decision on the jury, but he was definitely a cultural phenom as far as his athletic ability. He did some, his acting. He changed a lot for the game of sports, and yeah, then he became a murderous asshole. Didn't go to jail, then went to jail for trying to steal his memorabilia back from somebody. Got out early and just kind of coasted. I mean, he might not have got convicted, but that was definitely the end of life is the way he knew it. So I guess only him and Jesus know whether or not he did it, and probably if he hasn't atoned for that, would kind of decide where he's going. So yeah, that happened today. I thought that was kind of random. Saw that on Facebook, and then you always got to wonder, is that one of those real things? Because if you look up in the stories, it's always like so and so's dead. Like they're not dead. So, but yeah, he's really dead. So, we had this story is kind of interesting and weird at the same time because I'm glad that they stopped this guy in Idaho. This kid, he's 18. Apparently, pledges allegiance to ISIS. Wanted to be an ISIS freedom fighter or whatever fucking bullshit stuff they come up with. Was stopped. I guess his plan was they kept calling it churches. I figure if they're going to be going after a Jew, it's not like he was going to be going after Jews, but I don't know. But his plan was, and he posted on the internet, was going to go to, he had some pipe bombs and guns and bats and knives and all kinds of stuff. But he's going to go to all these churches and murder a bunch of people. And the FBI stopped him. Now, I haven't looked into this story all that much as far as like knowing the exact everything that went on. But it kind of seemed like the FBI was on to him and may or may not have fed into it a little bit. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it kind of had that Gretchen Whitmer kind of feel about, hey, man, anybody want to kidnap that governor? Oh, man. Oh, yeah, I'll kidnap the governor. I got going on next Sunday. What we going to do? And then they roped two guys into wanting to kidnap the governor. And out of the 20 some odd people that are in it, only two people are civilians, and everybody else is either an FBI agent or FBI informant. And I don't think it should be the job of the FBI to entrap or set someone up to prevent a crime. Like this person obviously has some issues. They were on his radar because he was very, or he was on their radar because he was very public about it and learned all shit on the internet. So instead of being like, hey, this 18-year-old is obviously having some problems with something, he's dealing with something, instead of notifying the kid's parents or the township saying, hey, we came across this, blah, blah, blah. If he continues with it, he's going to end up being our problem. Instead of trying to get this person help before it got to this point, because apparently he was just going to do it. So they had let him get all the way up to the point where he basically going to do it, and then they arrested him. Where if we lived in a free society that gave a shit about its citizens, I think that we would try to intervene sooner. I mean, I know that you have your First Amendment rights. You don't have a First Amendment right to go around saying you're going to murder people. That's why the whole chanting of death to America in U.S. cities, where Rashida Tlaib's from, one of her supporters, or one of her supporters or constituents in her county was yelling that. Chanting death to America, I'm not exactly sure how that falls under free speech because it's hyperbolic and it can incite violence. It's like, you know what, buddy? If you don't like America, get the fuck out. So I don't know. That's what you read stuff like that, and I don't know. You wonder where the line's drawn because they'll silence people over saying whether or not wearing a mask during COVID was stupid, and it was. I did the math, and I'm an expert in respiratory protection, so I think it would know. But we got silenced. We even had an episode deleted off of YouTube for some of our comments on COVID, and I did not know I had a PhD in biology, but turns out I was right about 99% of all my I was thinking about COVID. But whatever. But we ended up getting getting an episode deleted off of YouTube because of that. So that's where it's kind of weird. They silenced that, which is basically discussion. If somebody wanted to wear a mask, or somebody wanted to get the vaccine, or whatever, that's on them. But people should be able to discuss it. But they silence that. Yet, when someone's yelling death to America or calling for the eradication for an entire race of people, which is racist as fuck and surprisingly still supported by the left, that seems a little harsh. And I'm not sure. I mean, at least I guess you know who to keep an eye out on. You can always put it that way. I mean, that's why I like about free speech, letting people say what they want to say, because that's how we know who the crazies are. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I think I would have liked to see intervention on that instead. Of course, then we probably wouldn't have known about it. But try to help our citizens more to do the right thing and get help when they need to, than setting somebody up to commit a crime and then arrest them and pat yourself on the back for manipulating someone into do something. I'm not saying that's what they did with this kid. I'm just saying it kind of had that feel to it. But instead of doing stuff like that, help the kid. That's just me. Let's see. When Biden was asked about the biggest threat to democracy not being the tens of hundreds of thousands of getaways that's come into the country, and the FBI director literally warning that we have multiple terror cells in the United States that want to kill us, Biden's answer to that question was Trump. Trump is the greatest danger to democracy. If he gets elected, it'll be the last election the United States ever has. Coming in 2024, the Trumpolopicus. Yeah, that wasn't right. Trunkopocalypse. Apocalypse. Yeah, there you go. But I mean, that they don't have anything to run on. He doesn't have his record to run on. He hasn't really done shit for anything. I mean, a lot of times you can point out something good they did, but I mean, he's racked up so much more debt, screwed everybody financially, and then comes like, oh no, you're better off under me. Yeah, unemployment. I've added more jobs. For one thing, unless they're adding jobs to the executive branch, no president creates any jobs. They might create the situations for businesses to prosper, and they can add more people, but presidents don't add jobs. And all the jobs he added, which we said 1,000 times in this show, are the ones that came back from COVID, or people having to take second jobs because they can't afford to live in Biden's America. I mean, they have nothing to run on. 2 wars broke out under Biden. Economy shit under Biden. Crime stats are up under Biden. Illegal immigration has skyrocketed under Biden. So what do? Well, we can't run on a record, and we're not coming out with any plans to change anything. So I know orange man bad. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm serious. I'm telling the truth now. Trump is the biggest danger to democracy. You know what I mean, man? Yeah, man. So yeah, that was a softball interview anyway. But that kind of gives you an idea where they're at. So I thought it was interesting that Steve Deace did his so many day out prediction. And right now he has Biden winning with 275 electoral votes. So I think he's a little butthurt about he was definitely on the Ron DeSantis train, and when he lost, I think he got a little upset. So I'm not exactly sure whether or not his analysis is unbiased. Could be. I know he was an anti-Trumper, then he got to like Trump, then he didn't like Trump, and then he's like, Ron, go, Ron, go. And then Ron DeSantis never had a chance. I think he might have screwed himself over. It wasn't his time. I don't think he should have been in there to begin with. There's no way he was beating Trump. But be interesting to see how that goes, because if Biden if Biden gets reelected, just with how much bad things have happened in such a short time, I think our country at that point will be irreparably harmed. To fix the country at that point after 4 more years of Biden, which he will not make it through a second term. I just can't see it happen. The guy's so old and so rapidly going downhill. I just can't see him making another 4 years. So worst case scenario, then we're gonna get stuck with Kamala. Yay! I think the fix for that would just be it'd be hard. It'd be a tough love fix for sure. And I think that hopefully it doesn't happen and people aren't stupid. Kind of seems that way, but according to Steve Dace, right now, there's a lot of stupid people. So I don't know if that's just him showing his ass or not. But and I know that while Trump was visiting the family and friends of the fallen officer in New York, Biden raised $25 million with the Clintons, the Obamas, and some celebrities. Apparently, Trump said, "Hold my beer," and doubled that. And his for a single fundraising event, I think down in Mar-a-Lago or close to it. So I don't think Trump is ever going to get up to the numbers that Democrats have, just because for whatever reason, like everybody like tries to put Republican versus Democrat, rich versus poor. All the super rich are Democrats. Most of them. They support Democrats and left-wing shit. And it's because Democrats are easily manipulated to mess with the market in order to make things better for them. Like last week we were talking about BlackRock, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're buying up a shit ton of houses and driving up the housing market. And oh no, now we're getting paid to have illegals in them." It's like, yeah, because when all this stuff happens and all this more social programs people get on and all that stuff, and the middle class shrinks and you kind of lose your financial independence to where you're beholden to somebody else, the rich keep getting richer. And I don't have a problem with rich people. I want to be a rich person. Not even close to ever getting there. But, here's hoping. Fingers crossed. Like, share, comment, subscribe. But most, if you look at the super wealthy, are Democrats. That's why Democrats always have so much more money to campaign with, even though it didn't matter. I think Hillary Clinton had, 25 or 50% more money than Trump, and he still won 2016. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully people don't, make stupid decisions on election day. But that pretty well wraps up my solo episode. Try not to be too wordy, and I know it goes pretty quick under a single episode, but since that's all, it just leaves one thing left on the episode, and that's the white slur of the week.
What's a honky?
And this week, my white slur is Elmer's. Like the glue, white people are sometimes referred to as Elmers for being white and pasty. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the white slur of the week. And being that there's nothing said, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, check out the merch shop. Kevin will be back next week. But until then, I'm Josh, and this has been another totally tubular, bodacious, awesome episode of The Lost Art of Common Sense. We'll see you next week, everybody.